Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Port Royal November Council meeting. I'm going to ask everybody to stand a minute, please. I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize former Mayor Sam Murray. Thank you. Councilman, can you do the invocation, please?
Yes, Father, we thank you for this opportunity as we assemble before you in your presence. We thank you for the business that will be conducted on this evening, that it will be done pleasing in your sight. We also ask a special prayer for those that may be in the path of the upcoming storm. We thank you for your divine protection as we endure this time. And we thank you again for the town of Port Royal and all of our constituents. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mary Beth, can you lead us, please? Kevin? Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Before we get started tonight with our normal business, Councilman, if you want to go ahead and let everybody know the services and the information that we know about Sam Murray's services.
Yes, services are scheduled on this Friday. There will be a public viewing on tomorrow after 4 at the Marshall's Wright Donaldson Homes for Funeral. That's located at 1814 Green Street in Beaufort, near the Maryland Fried Chicken, if you don't know. So,
What time is that?
that will be after 4 for a public viewing at the mortuary on tomorrow evening. His homegoing services are scheduled for 3 o'clock on Friday at Bethesda Christian Fellowship, which is located at 36 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive on St. Helena Island. And that will be precisely at 3 o'clock on Friday.
Thank you very much for keeping us all informed on the services.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
So, Van, I'd like to ask if there's any way that we can fly our flag half-mast tomorrow and Friday in honor of Mayor Sam Murray. Thank you.
Done. Thank you for asking that. Done. Okay? I'd like to take this time and ask Captain Massey to come up and introduce some new officers.
Mayor, council members, Mr. Willis. I'd like to introduce you to 2 of our newest candidates for the Port Royal Police Department. Tamika Blanco. Tamika Blanco came to us from the Beaufort County Detention Center. And Arshay Merrill. Arshay Merrill came from us from Fripp Island Security. They are right now in the process of getting ready to go to the academy. They're going to be a great addition to the Port Royal Police Department. Failure is not an option.
That's right.
No pressure.
We welcome you aboard, really. And anything you need from us, we're open. Let us know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Want some donuts, let us know.
Any excuse to buy donuts to come and join you. We love it.
We have Maynard's, that's right.
Coffee and donuts with us?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Captain. All right, next item of business. We have meetings from our council workshop on October 6th, and we have minutes from our council meeting on October 6th. They're both in our packets. What's the pleasure of council?
I move that we approve the minutes from the council's workshop of October 6th and the minutes from council meetings on October 6th.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any deletions, corrections, or addition to the minutes?
I've not noted.
I have none either. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
And I'm
you.
going to abstain due to the fact that I haven't been here.
Weren't at either one of those.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is we have a presentation from Trip Muldrow on the Ribault Road corridor. Trip is doing this through Zoom. Technology will work, and we'll see if we can bring this up for both everybody in the room and people online to see this presentation. And we can hear him as well. Trip, are you there?
Yes, I unmute there.
I am here. Can you hear me and can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes to both.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good evening, Mayor DeVito and council. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm very apologetic I can't be there in person. I had a medical situation that has resolved itself, but I'm going to walk you through the report. It is a report, so it's a little hard to read on the screens in the room, but I'll hit on the highlights. We can dig into any details if you want me to scroll back. And I'll go fairly fast, and then if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them as we proceed. This has been a fantastic project, and we've been honored to work with you at the town on this Rebo Road Gateway redevelopment plan. We were teamed with Studio Maine and Community Design Solutions, both Studio Maine's out of Columbia, Studio Maine's out of West Pelzer, and Community Design Solutions is out of Columbia. And our scope as we looked at the gateway on Rebo Road is to understand the market conditions, look at some of the prior plans that have been done, come up with some suggestions or ideas for development and redevelopment for key sites, also look at some facade improvements, and then look at implementation and funding as a result of this. And part of this is to tee up, we know this has been a really important this has been an important initiative of the community for some time, and we're hoping that this particular study sheds some light on Rebo Road. The market, and it's rare for me, and I say it's rare, I have a lot of really good news to deliver tonight. So I hope you'll enjoy I'll hit on these highlights of the market conditions and talk about some of the things that are going on. So we wanted to look at the existing plans, look at the market conditions, and then use those market conditions as a foundation to look at redevelopment opportunities along Rebo Road. And then, once we look at the opportunities for redevelopment along Rebo Road, what does that mean for the town of Port Royal as far as fiscal impact for the town and Beaufort County as a whole? And then have some recommendations to get some things going. And so again, the idea is to create economic development opportunities in the community and reinforce and better connect the roadway so that you all live in the community. You understand that Rebo Road kind of acts not as a uniter, but as a divider in the town. So how can we better connect downtown and the neighborhoods across Rebo Road with pedestrian connections, improvements, and extensions for Spanish Moss Trail, and then certainly enhance the experience for folks who live in Port Royal and visitors that are coming from other communities throughout the county, state, and country. And then also present ideas for the private sector for investment and some ideas for the public sector as well, not to mandate those ideas, but kind of foster discussion and creative thinking on future opportunities here, all the while looking at creating employment opportunities. I'm not going to read through all this. I think you all probably, I'm speaking to the choir because you're in the community every day. The road conditions as they stand are it's a mixture of uses. There's some residential, commercial, institutional, and then the physical conditions are challenging, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists to travel the road or even cross the road. In addition to that, while you have done some improvements and DOT has done some improvements, it certainly has resulted in a better road, but it's still pretty fast traffic with very little friction going through, very few lights. So the traffic does go through the community pretty fast. And that's really what's on this page in a nutshell. And it just talks about the position of the road. When I talk about the market study, I want to be very careful that, so much of this is putting it into the context of Beaufort County and looking at the growth that's going on, particularly in Northern County. And we also wanted to look at the road and what the opportunities were for the town. And we get into some really interesting market dynamics when we do that because of the proximity of Beaufort and the role of Northern County in attracting rural customers and visitors in from the outside. So we'll look at some inflow and outflow here. A lot of this data comes from drive time analysis, and we use Claritas, the census, the American Community Survey, all to kind of generate this data. So it's coming from a number of different places. And I'll touch on those as we go through this. So I'm getting through some of the text slides, just so that we can quickly move on to some of the demographics here. You all know what kind of incredible growth is happening in the community. 23.5% population change between 2010 and 2022. Keep in mind this 13,188. We have a weird kind of situation where the census says one thing, one of our estimates says something else. So if your number in your head's a little different than this number, that's absolutely fine. I hope it's not off by a whole ton. But each of those numbers is slightly different. We have a couple things happening. And this is a function of Parris Island being inside the town limits. Is your median age is extraordinarily young because when the census is taken, it's catching folk who are there. Pardon me?
Nothing.
Sorry, it was a chuckle about the median age.
Okay. and then what it does, it also creates a little bit of a dent in your median household income. Just by, way of comparison, we're still doing pretty good on income levels here. That dent's pretty small. And then when I take away and just don't look at the town, I look more at the 10-minute drive time, which gets me a lot more people because we're getting into Beaufort and even across the bridge. The population goes from 13,000 to 24,000. That growth rate shrinks a little bit, and then it starts to look a lot more like the rest of the overall county, or the northern county. Median age at 39, the housing value a little bit higher, and that income a little bit higher. And so all this is good stuff and important stuff to understand that, your income levels and your population growth are extremely robust. One of the really important observations that came out of this that I hope as council members that I can maybe explain this in a way that you might be able to explain to constituents as well, is that you function really interesting. To some people, you may be perceived as a bedroom community, and then to others, you're an employment center. And so one thing the census tracks is inflow and outflow of workers. And so on any given day, there are 3,152 workers that leave Port Royal to go elsewhere to work. There are 2,296 that come into Port Royal to work every day. And there's, according to the census, 272 that live and work in Port Royal. I see this happen a lot in communities embedded in kind of in metro areas where that inflow, outflow, it creates kind of a little bit of a tale of two cities depending on who you ask. So you may talk to someone who says, oh yeah, we're a bedroom community because, I commute out, my spouse commutes out every day. And then you'll talk to someone else who's like, oh no, I drive into Port Royal to work every day. So it creates kind of this dichotomy that happens. And we see this a lot when we're not working in what I would call a central city of a metro area, where this is a lot more balanced. One other observation on this is that, and this shouldn't come as a surprise, is that overall the income levels of those commuting out is higher than that of those coming in. And mainly because the kind of jobs that exist inside the town of Port Royal, the key ones are accommodation and food service at 25%, healthcare and social assistance at 19%. Then you see the retail and construction. So they tend to be lower wage jobs inside the town. We see this as a really important opportunity, and I'll talk about that as we get to some of the sites moving ahead on this. We wanted to look at retail, and I always kind of like zooming out and looking at regional retail dynamics just so that I can get a handle on how big the retail is in the community. And we even zoomed out so we could get some South County. We didn't go on the island, on Hilton Head Island. We stuck with Bluffton. But it kind of helps to see these dots are roughly proportioned to the size of the retail sales in each area. So we have Ladies Island, Beaufort itself, Port Royal, and Bluffton. And when we look at these, we see, what a huge, retail center Bluffton is, about 800 million, Beaufort about 300 million, Port Royal 57 and a half, and then Ladies Island's really growing 47.7. And so we will always see that Bluffton kind of powerhouse because of the amount of tourism that they're catching coming in. But the North County market is really growing. So it's important that we take that into account. And this kind of helped us understand, too, how to be careful about understanding what the opportunities were on Rebo Road in the context of your neighboring retail nodes, which are going through some pretty dramatic either growth or change all throughout the area. So when we look at this, and I wanted to look at it several different ways, we look at what we call retail leakage. And if we have retail leakage in a market, that means that the residents spend more than stores sell in any given geography. So if you all are driving to Beaufort to shop at Super Walmart or going to Belk's or any of those other type retailers, you're leaking those dollars out of the community into another place. Market equilibrium is something that occurs at a regional level, and it never really completely occurs because we're looking at only the local customers. So I wanted to slice it and dice it several different ways. Just looking at the town limits, it shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you that the consumers in the town of Port Royal spend about 43 million more than stores sell in Port Royal. So that in and of itself presents an opportunity to fill in some of that gap. You won't fill it all in, which shouldn't come as a surprise. The 5-minute drive time is actually smaller than the town limits. So, and I dropped that pin at Rebo in Paris so that you just knew where I dropped that pin for the drive time. 83 million in sales versus 160. Not really paying a lot of attention to the 5-minute drive time. I'm much more interested in the 10 and 20-minute drive times. And that's when we see it flip from a leaking market to a gain market. At 10 minutes, we're getting into Beaufort and almost all of the retail there. So we jumped from 139 million to 569 million at the 10-minute drive time. And then this is where the market starts to gain 69 million at a 20-minute drive time. We're pretty much, well, we're not pretty much. We are entirely encompassing all the retail in Northern County, with the exception of just outliers. And it jumps to a $1.26 billion market, and the market gains about 118 million. So what does all this mean? The reason I like to look at it this way is I don't want to give you a false positive reading on opportunity when we have an overall gain market. And then it's also good to look at this as a whole, but I'm going to drill down into individual retail categories so that we can understand where those opportunities lie in greater detail. And so what we end up doing is we can look at 70 different individual retail categories, and they're under NAICS codes, and see what's leaking and see what's gaining in those categories. So while you may be gaining in some and leaking in others, what we really want to drill down to is, okay, what opportunities might land on Rebo Road as it exists in Port Royal. And so as a market analyst, I'm doing a little bit of number crunching here, combined with a little bit of voodoo and a lot of experience in doing this through the years. So just keep in mind that any market analyst who says the numbers are what they are and they don't bend or move or anything is not telling you the truth. A lot of this is using, built up knowledge over time. So the grocery market, it looks saturated. What's happening right now, we're in a real mess in South Carolina with our Bilo going out of business and Food Lion kind of backfilling. And all the decks have not settled on that. And COVID did not help the grocery piece. One of the things that has happened, and you all are aware of it, is the announcement, if not the completion, of Aldi stores, both in Beaufort and in Bluffton. The fact that they're coming into the market is indicative of the weakness of the traditional grocery stores. If you've been to Aldi, you understand where I'm speaking here. We're looking at about $6 million of leakage with when we're looking at the 10-minute drive time. It gets absorbed at the 20-minute drive time, and you end up with a surplus. But, and this is a big but, with the population growth and the visitor traffic and a rural region that really has to come in to do their grocery shopping, we do feel like there's an opportunity for Port Royal to look at expanding either its existing grocery stores or looking at specialty type food as it relates to the dining category that I'll speak to as well. And so all these NAICS codes are allied with one another. And so specialty food is a really important opportunity. Although it's a much smaller market, we're looking at 518,000 that jumps up to 1.4 million in 10 minutes and a 5-minute drive time, and 3.6 million leakage in a 20-minute drive time. And when I say specialty food, this category keeps growing as we, as Americans, start doing our shopping kind of like we used to do it, where I live in Greenville, in the neighborhood adjacent to where I live. There's a brand new bakery that opened. It's right next to a pasta maker that opened, which is right next to a butcher. And so we're seeing more of this happen, and this is definitely a trend that we see could be capitalized on the corridor and in the community. And this allies with grocery. It also allies with your dining piece. The limited service food categories are leaking at any level I look at. And so it's not just fast food. It's the growth of fast casual that we're seeing, things like juice bars, the burrito places, they all kind of come in here. We think there are 3 to 4 additional units supportable in Port Royal, and we think it's a real opportunity to reinforce full service dining as well. Even though full service dining is showing a bit of saturation, because of the visitor market in Beaufort, you're always going to have more restaurants than the locals could support, particularly the sit-down kind, because you have visitors coming in. We see opportunities for health and personal care, and then we also see opportunities for all these specialty type retail, and these get into really fine grain NAICS codes. But what's exciting as I look at this and look at some of the redevelopment opportunities is it's not likely that you're going to see a lot of big box pressure on your portion of Rebo, because it hasn't really existed before. And that's kind of rearranging a bit in Beaufort as retail centers there are backfilling, and then also growth on the island. And so there's certainly opportunities for additional dining and retail along the Rebo Road corridor. And I don't want to ignore, I didn't really touch on it, it's in the report, but going back to the population growth piece, you all know this too, is that the pressure on housing is really strong right now with the growth of the population. So understanding that as an opportunity on Rebo Road Gateway actually could be and something that we're looking at in each of these plans. You adopted your comp plan in December 2021. It identifies the corridor as a major priority project by you all, mayor, council, staff, and we know that right now it's kind of viewed as a vehicular route. How can it be transitioned from just a vehicular route into a true gateway to the community? And I think that's the important piece of this. You also commissioned a design plan from Tool Design, which our team reviewed. It has outstanding suggestions on creating a better pedestrian environment, cycling environment, and crossings along the corridor, including a mixed path on one side of Rebo Road, sidewalk on the other, and then key crossings. So we did not reinvent the wheel. We're referencing both of these plans and this plan because they really do warrant being included in this, or using their recommendations. So what we ended up doing was, through working with our steering committee, we identified several sites. They each kind of have different characteristics to them that can be example sites for development or redevelopment. And this was an evolutionary process through the whole plan. And we've named these. The first one is the crossings at Port Royal, and I'll talk more about each one as we get into them. The second one is a plan that's already been filed, South Crossings, what we're calling South Crossing site. C is the Preserve at Port Royal 2. That property's changed hands, as you know. D is the Civic Gateway, which is the old Wendy's. Well, it's a site owned by Wendy's, never occupied by Wendy's. The Naval Hospital site, this was one that was much discussed, and I'll talk about our approach on it. And then what we're calling Gateway Center, which is where Piggly Wiggly is currently located and the Ace Hardware is located. And so I'm going to get into each of these sites. The crossings at Port Royal is a combination of owners. It's roughly divides in two, and I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen, but it divides right here. If you can see my cursor, the two commercial buildings that are fronting on Rebo on the right are all, and the townhouses on the back that are depicted here are all occupied by rental housing. And then everything on the left of the site is occupied by various warehousing and industrial uses, or not, service uses is probably the better way to characterize it. We showed the site planned with mixed use on the frontage along Rebo Road and attached townhomes on the rear of the site facing the residential. And the idea is to transition from a more dense use to a less dense use as you get into and closer to the neighborhood. We believe this is an outstanding site for mixed use development or hotel development. Since you have lost your hotel, we do see an opportunity for that coming back into the market. We're depicting one or two hotels, and we could imagine those being any number of brands. We know that they're continuing to be built throughout the market. We still think that we do believe Port Royal is a great opportunity because of your extreme proximity to Paris Island and pretty much anywhere. We show townhouses or live work units on the back of the site. We have central circulation here, and then we have plaza space and water detention, retention incorporated into the site as well. If they're not hotels, we could envision it being ground floor retail with upper floor residential, or ground floor retail with upper floor office, depending. And so we're trying to be as flexible as possible. But the big takeaways here are trying to get density facing the street, shielding the parking so we're not looking at parking as you travel the corridor, as you travel the gateway. And then this also gives some real signature potential opportunities we could envision with accommodations on the site, having some pretty good views here as well. And I'll talk more about the impact. The properties are currently assessed at $3.2 million. And so it generates about $14,000 annually, or all the properties that are on this depiction here. There's 7. $14,000 in property tax for the town of Port Royal and about $10,000 for Beaufort County operations. Under this scenario, this redevelopment scenario, you would increase your revenue on the site from $14,000 to $120,000 a year and the county would increase theirs from 10 to 87,000. This is also does not factor in the additional hospitality tax that may be generated by food on the site, or the additional accommodations tax that could be generated by lodging on the site. And I'll talk about these in each of the projects on the potential fiscal impacts. The South Crossing site, this is not our plan. We're showing the plan that was submitted that shows mixed use fronting on Rebo Road, and kind of a similar approach with the mixed use or the stacked flat and the townhouses to the rear. Mainly what we were doing in depicting this is we wanted to run our numbers over it. So right now the site's generating about 8,500 for the town, 6,100 for the county. Our estimate on the redevelopment is conservative. All of our estimates are conservative. And so again, we're looking at this one going to about 53,000 and 39,000 for county on this one. The preserve at Port Royal 2 in our discussions, and I may be behind you all, councilors, is that this would be a housing product that would be for rent, but it would not be the same as the garden apartments that are already in existence at the preserve. And so what's fascinating about this property is it's already changed hands a couple times, and it should already be generating significantly more money for the community, even with the change of hands because of the amount of the sale. It's currently assessed at 3.2 million, and the town is getting about 14,000. Beaufort County is getting about 10,400. They're currently classified as agricultural vacant. And so, again, this could really, change because they sold in May of 2022 for 2.7. And so we're looking at this going from a site that has a pretty low assessed value, and then it actually jumping up to about 18 million and really dramatically increasing. So a good site. We did not want to illustrate anything on it because we didn't want to seed that because there wasn't a plan filed. This is the public, we're calling this a public site or a civic gateway site. It's the 3-acre parcel. It is adjacent to the preserve. It's adjacent to the fire station and the police station, and again, the Cypress Wetlands Park. Here we are showing a civic use potentially on this site. We think this could be a really great signature public civic type use. It could be an administrative building for the town itself. We did show a branch of the library, but we understand that that's elsewhere. But it could be shared meeting space, playground, park pavilion. And what we see is really a efficient kind of coalescing of the town operations into one site rather than having you spread out over others. And because it's one parcel and it's surrounded by civic uses, we think it presents a great opportunity. Certainly on this one, we're not showing any projected revenue stream on it because it's not generating very much revenue right now at all. And if it were public, of course, it would be non-taxable. And so we put this out here for ideas and discussion because we think it could be an important gateway along Paris into Paris Avenue and Rebo Road. So the Naval Hospital, it was, we had to do a lot of back and forth to kind of understand exactly what was going on here. And we know that y'all have been talking about this for some time now. What we wanted to do is go ahead and do kind of a broad diagram, and we're calling it the Naval Hospital Employment Center. It's a 119-acre site. That the military presence on this site has been there since the Revolutionary War. The hospital is a post-war or 2 construction. And it does have the unique distinction of not being associated or on the base of any of the other military installations. And so we know that what's happening here, even though we're looking at employment figures, we have folks pegged to the hospital, but they don't physically locate here, which kind of it throws a lot of our numbers in a weird situation. The site is assessed, which is interesting, and it does pay some degree of taxing to the jurisdictions, including schools, but the total site only pays $15,000 for a site that's assessed at $12 million. The South Carolina Military Base Task Force showed that the hospital employs 968 personnel and has a direct output of 157.3. However, we know that several hundred of those 968 are not located on the site. You all know that too, because you're probably not, you're not seeing that amount of traffic coming and going. So what's happening is there are employees assigned to the site that their job doesn't reside on the site. And so we just want to make sure we're not mischaracterizing this as a huge employment center currently, because that's actually been declining over time. So it has been discussed for reuse. And what we wanted to do from a town perspective is give you a chance to, and through back and forth, to kind of stake your claim and work with your partners at the county level, the state level, the federal level, to look at potential reuse of the site over time. And we'd love to see it continue to be an employment use. We think the 2 key opportunities might be related to medical because of the proximity of the current use is medical and the proximity to the hospital. We also had there is a cybersecurity initiative underway in the area, and we think this could also play a role in that too. So what we ended up doing was look at a kind of a bubble diagram that said, okay, let's take the core hospital itself. That may remain a, quote, public use of some sort, whether that's a cybersecurity center or a hospital or a medical facility of some sort, and then surround it with ancillary private sector uses. Those are depicted in orange. Preserve the green space as a buffer so the adjacent neighborhoods still kind of have the feel to them. And then looking at the staying residential on the site, which is depicted in yellow on the diagram. What we could envision is that this could be as an employment center. It could really change the dynamics of that inflow outflow, keep jobs inside the town of Port Royal, keep jobs inside northern Beaufort County, quite frankly. And when we look at the median income of either, public health workers or these cybersecurity professionals, we're looking at about $97,500 folks, $97,500 of income. And we believe it could generate upwards of 1.2 million. And that is spitballing because it's hard to predict. But what we wanted to do is give you something to talk about. And as you all continue to explore what may happen to this in the future. Because as of yet, although it's been discussed, there hasn't really been something to kind of lay down and talk about. This next site, the plan's a little blurry here. This is the Gateway Center. This is where the Piggly Wiggly, the Ace Hardware is. We're showing the opportunity to renovate and expand the Piggly Wiggly. Maybe looking at some fast casual restaurants on the location. And then we're showing townhouses on the rear of the site. And that would be facing, I want to make sure I get this right. I think that's Sutcliffe Drive, I believe. Or is it Johnny Morrell?
Johnny Morrell.
No, Johnny Morrell. And so showing townhouses on the back of the site, and then even showing the potential of another lodging use here as well because of the proximity to the bridge and being central to the community. This one, we could see really, again, dramatically increasing revenue to the town if it were redeveloped even over time. Not looking at, hardcore scrape and redo, but looking at infill and reinvesting in the site. We looked at facade improvement plans along Rebo Road. I'm not going to go into all the details on each of these, but just showing existing conditions and what individuals could look like, buildings could look like if there were a small grant program, for facades and getting some of those buildings redeveloped over time. These are pretty small as far as impact, but I think we need to be careful. What we want to do as a consulting team is to be careful to acknowledge that not every site's a wholesale redevelopment site or an expansion site. There are a lot of small parcels along the corridor that could benefit from some physical improvements as we're looking at it. Here we end up looking at the existing revenue and as illustrated. And basically the short story is that we're looking at about a 10 times increase overall for revenue to the town of Port Royal from $42,535 just on the sites we illustrated up to $435,000 in ad valorem tax revenue. Beaufort County operation would increase to $316,000, and then I have my dialogue box over the top of the schools here. You all can probably see that better than I can. Let me go back. But the schools increase not quite as much because of the way South Carolina taxing works on this. Again, all of these are everything from the beginning to the end of this is extremely conservative. Even the leakage opportunities are conservative. I like doing that because I'd much rather you all see it over deliver and under promise than my numbers be way more than what this corridor could generate. And so a lot of this is kind of taking what the tool study did and what the comp plan does and says, all right, if we invest in public infrastructure along Rebo Road, what kind of private sector investment might we see in return? And what would the return look like for the town and for the other governments that are overlapping? And so I'll walk you through this because I don't want you to have to squint too much here. We have a couple ideas as far as how to proceed on this. When we embarked on the plan early in 2022, the county was discussing the penny. We've taken that out of this, but we still believe that the town itself could issue some debt, general obligation debt. We're looking at $3 million. We believe that the revenue stream, just based on the sale of properties along Rebo Road, would probably cover this. This would allow implementation of prior plans, some sidewalk improvements in downtown neighborhoods, to the north of Rebo Road, pedestrian improvements that would ultimately connect across Rebo Road. We'd be looking at road improvements that would prepare adjacent roads and get utilities in where needed. And then certainly looking at detailed engineering drawings for improvements of the Rebo Road Gateway itself, based on the tool plan. So we think this is an opportunity to get things going and also positions the community well should the penny come back up for discussion at the county level. Then looking at either a redevelopment overlay or redevelopment zone that would advance the goals of the plan. The idea of a redevelopment overlay has been done in other communities in South Carolina that could provide some degree of incentive for having mixed use and having more density rather than suburban typical corridor development. And so allowing more dense development would mitigate the market pressure in other parts of Port Royal and also do that along a major road, so you would mitigate that traffic situation as well. And then, and you could maybe look at some incentives like, reducing parking minimums or some density bonuses. Step 3, certainly we wanted this plan to position Port Royal well for a future county capital penny. That could be a significant source of improvements, and we are aware that the county is looking at Rebo Road, not just in the town of Port Royal, but throughout. And so this is kind of our way to work with you all, with your goals, and kind of get those, I guess, enshrined in a document prior to any, countywide plans. And then finally, looking at some long-term funding options. One thing I get excited about, and we've seen this put in place in Greenville in particular, is what we call a synthetic tax increment district. This is not the same as the TIF that you have already. It doesn't require a plan. It's simply a policy decision by council to dedicate a portion of incremental revenue increases along Rebo Road to stay with the corridor, with the road on improvements over time, if that makes sense. So as you all look at, you would kind of do like you would as if you were doing a TIF plan, but rather than going, you're not capturing other taxing jurisdictions. You're only just making a policy decision that says, you know what, we're going to use some of the investment on the corridor to pump it back into grant programs or to some of the public improvements that you may want to do. The other opportunity that we see is the Municipal Improvement Act. This allows a special taxing jurisdiction. So this is a little different. It's almost the opposite in some ways of the tax increment, where you're not levying a new tax, you're just capturing the additional value. The Municipal Improvement Act allows the governing body to create a district, commonly called a business improvement district, that would be an additional levy for improvement. So that could be another thing to consider, and that's kind of this is kind of I won't say a laundry list. And then looking at multi-county industrial park, this used to only be used for industrial, and so what it would be is you take two contiguous counties, you have contiguous counties to you that have lower designated job development status, partner with a private developer to do economic development. They get the tax credits for the jobs created in the multi-county industrial park. And what we have seen in communities in South Carolina is that they are using these now for commercial and mixed use type development. So it could be an interesting thing to explore. And then finally, just some concluding remarks. The vision of this Rebo Road Gateway is to rethink Rebo Road from what we would call a functional artery, just to move traffic from one place or the other, to being a connector for the community, a connector for the neighborhoods, and a redeveloped corridor that can absorb some of the growth that the whole area is going to see without resorting to the kind of sprawl that we're seeing in communities across the United States. So, and allowing the community of Port Royal to take advantage of the growth that's coming to the region. So with that, I've done a lot of talking. I will be happy to open it up to any questions you all might have.
Council, questions for Trip? So drafts of this and have had time to digest it. We've been asking questions all along, but it's nice to finally see it in a single presentation like this and to get it out there. Trip, I appreciate all that you've done in summarizing it tonight, but questions? Kevin, you good? Mary Beth, everybody?
Yeah, not at this time.
No, right, but
Thank
I'm
you.
sure we'll come up with, especially some of the recommendations. Tonight alone, we're doing a first reading on an economic taxation incentive, to get some of this stuff started. There'll be more of that coming, some of the other options that you had forward. We're gonna be reaching back out to dig further, along with some of our other council, to dig into a little bit more about that. The Ace Hardware is starting that one shopping center, and now we've got to figure out how do we keep that momentum going and move that along. And then on the other bookend, how do we get that property to say, okay, it's time to do a redevelopment? Those are, if we can get those two bookends on each end of this started, everything's gonna fill in the center, as we know in that aspect.
From bridge to bridge, right?
Bridge to Burger King.
Bridge to bridge,
Bridge to
that's
Burger
right.
King.
Well, Mayor and Council, I can't tell you enough how excited I am about the opportunities that you all have. My office is located on the Stone Avenue corridor in Greenville, and we are watching that corridor redevelop in a very similar way as we speak, as old kind of mixture of uses are turning into mixed use with retail on the ground floor and residential on the upper floor. So pretty dramatic to see it happening. I have every reason to believe it'll happen in Port Royal as well.
Well, thank you, Trip. Staff, anything? Van, anything?
I've heard it a couple times.
Yeah, I know you have. Okay, Trip, thank you so much. Glad you're doing well. I'm glad everything went well for you. Sorry you couldn't be here in person, but we'll see you again soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is council briefing. Any additions to last week's briefing? Ben?
Just a few things. We will be closed tomorrow, obviously with the school district closing and the other governmental entities closing. We found out about that late this afternoon, so we're going to follow suit. We do have responses to the sidewalk RFP, which are due tomorrow, so we will make sure that we receive those by that deadline. So we will take care of that. Just kind of whipping through some of these things. I did include in your packet, we briefly discussed this last week, the Historic Port Royal Foundation. Just real briefly, I think we're anticipating maybe them coming to us formally to discuss this with y'all in December, so we can talk about that in a little bit more depth at that time. Safe Harbor, we did have the meeting this past Friday to discuss the channel issues with the Corps of Engineers. We've all agreed to put together economic data, both past and present, to kind of figure out what the potential economic incentive would be for impact if we were to not properly maintain that channel, and what sort of things we could anticipate. And I think that was a very productive meeting, and everybody kind of walked away understanding what they needed to do. So pretty pleased.
The other thing with Safe Harbor was closer on the property swap.
Yes.
Actually setting a goal, maybe by the end of the year or the very beginning of next year.
We're looking at least at first reading in December on the property swap. They are finalizing the map that'll give you a kind of better feel for what properties we're talking about in particular. So excited about
Right,
that.
and just so that, we mention it as a property swap, so people who don't understand what we're talking about, which is Sands Beach Road, left and right-hand side. Left side right now was designed for development, right-hand side was a park. We're swapping those, and we're gonna preserve along the water and make that a park, and let the right-hand side be contiguous to the existing development, and that's the discussions we're having with Safe Harbor.
Then Sands Beach, that pipe repair has been completed, so we're pretty excited about that. That iron plate will go away, then we will have to do some resurfacing there. We did discover a small sinkhole a little bit later, and it basically was not so much a sinkhole as just somebody with a very heavy boat driving the entire side of the road edge and knocking off some asphalt, so we're fixing that. Other than that, we did get the second round of grants submitted for the Casablanca area and duck blind, so that has been submitted. And then finally, somebody's cell phone is near the thing there. Capital projects, just real quickly, I wanted to touch on that. Brooke, we had hoped to have a regional meeting tomorrow to discuss projects, but obviously that's probably going to be rescheduled. Make sure we're coordinating and that we're not over doing those. Took a lot of time with the presentation, but we'll stop there.
Nope, that's fine, they're important. Questions, any other updates on the council briefing the council would like? And at this point, before we start our agenda for readings, any public comment? I did have one. Jesse, you're for an agenda item. Shirley, say a word, are you agenda item or non? I'll get you at the end, okay? Appreciate that. Jesse White?
Thank you, and good evening. Jessie White with the Coastal Conservation League. And first and foremost, I want to apologize for my casual attire. I was leaving today to go to Columbia and didn't think I was going to make it back in time to attend the meeting, so I apologize. I'm here, but I would have cleaned up better. I just wanted to commend the town for moving forward expeditiously with the tree ordinance and strengthening it. It's one thing, and it's easy to talk about doing it and to talk about making changes, but you're taking the action. Staff, Noah and Brooke and Michael have been really dedicated to working hard, and we're very appreciative of that effort and the seriousness with which it's being taken. So I wanted to commend you all for that. And I just also wanted to echo a couple of the things that I know details are still being worked out, and tonight is just in title only, but I think some of the good things that are coming out of the task force that are really going to make a huge difference are the clear and robust purpose and intent at the beginning of the ordinance, because that in itself helps with the whole administration of those tree protection standards. That guides how you're interpreting the rules and the standards about what can and can't be done, and it gives it kind of a context to understand it under. And so that's really important. We've talked about definitions, which is another key thing that was missing. And there's a lot of technical detail, as Noah told you all at last week's workshop, where having Michael Murphy on the task force has been really, really helpful, and uncovering some kind of disconnects between what a certified arborist means when he writes his report and how it's being interpreted when brought forward in the context of a development plan. There's some, loaded language that's used, and if you don't have the technical definition to go along with that language, then you're not necessarily interpreting it correctly. And so these are just kind of some of the things that we're hashing out, and I think it's going to be really, really helpful. And of course, prioritizing preservation of existing trees over replanting, and paying a fine in lieu as an absolute last resort. So those are kind of the big themes, and I think really setting up the town to be a leader in having the best and strongest tree protection standard, and really having setting the bar high for other communities to follow. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing it unfold.
Thank you. And thank you for all your help with this as well. So we have first readings. First one is ordinance 2214, an ordinance to provide economic taxation incentive in the town of Port Royal. Van?
I'm going to defer to
Brooke? I have to stop writing names. Who's going to do?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Last week at the Council workshop, I gave a little briefing on the economic taxation incentive. This is something that that the City of Beaufort already has adopted, and at this time, the Redevelopment Commission has made a recommendation for us to review what the city has and potentially adopt that as well. So it does come from the City of Beaufort. I think the only thing that I forgot to mention in last week's briefing was that the rebate for the taxes would follow 3 years worth, and for a vacant property that was to be purchase and occupancy of the commercial building anywhere in the town which has been vacant for over a year would qualify for 5 years worth of the rebate. So other than that, everything's the same. I'm just looking for some input from council and the public if they have any comments.
Council? I'm excited about it. I mean, it fits right into what we just saw in the presentation.
Perfect timing.
I mean, we couldn't have planned that, or did we?
Yes, you did.
Right. So I'm excited about this. Remember?
I think so.
Kevin, I think, Kevin, you were one of the ones who instrumental, and you were part of the redevelopment commission.
committee, yeah.
You really got this started, and we appreciate sometimes we don't know what's going on, and it's great to see, hear that, so. No other questions then I'll call for a motion. For first reading.
To approve ordinance 2022-14 for first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next ordinance is ordinance 2215, an ordinance annexing to the town of Port Royal approximately 9.64 acres of real estate located in Beaufort County, described as Beaufort County Tax District 100, map 31, parcels 1, 2, 3, and 38W, located at 463 and 571 Paris Island Gateway. And I know who's going to present this. Noah.
Yeah, excuse me. So this is two parcels on Paris Island Gateway. You would know them as Sky City, and the parcel opposite of Sky City on Oakview Drive is the Ricky's Heating and Air parcel. Both of these properties are in the future growth boundary for the town under the Northern Regional Plan. And again, I'm struggling to stay away from the zoning until the next item. So if you'd like to lump them together, I can, or I can.
They're two separate, so let's handle the annexation first, and then we'll get into the zoning.
So the MPC recommended approval of both of these parcels being annexed into the town at the meeting in October. The existing uses on the two parcels, the smaller parcel, again, is office and small warehousing use for Ricky's Heating and Air. Sky City, the larger parcel, is currently warehousing, or mini storage warehousing, and as we all know, the front parking lot is currently being used for food trucks. And so we would, there are not yet ripe plans for redevelopment of that site that the applicant has brought up to me as we were reviewing this annexation request. So
Let's go ahead and handle this one.
thank you.
Any questions on the annexation to Noah? What's the pleasure of council?
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2022-16.
Second.
15.
It says 16 on mine.
Sorry.
15 is the
15 is
annexation.
the annexation, 16, sorry.
Sorry.
So it's okay, it's okay, we have both of them. 15. And we have a second by Councilman Ashmore, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Zoning on those same parcels.
Sure. So the applicant for Sky City is requesting T4 urban center zoning. That would allow subdivision of the frontage of that parcel in order to have out parcels along the highway. The storage use would be maintained and would give the owner the ability to then sell the out parcels to a developer. The smaller parcel is, the requested zoning is T4 neighborhood center open. All of those adjacent county parcels are currently C3 neighborhood mixed use, which is basically single family. That single family neighborhood matches the form of the building that already exists on that parcel, and so the most logical zoning there is to assign the neighborhood center open zoning. The single family building surrounding that match the look of that parcel, yet there is the warehouse and office use there, so that is all I have for you on that.
Any questions?
So this is only to annex in those two green parcels.
This is
Correct.
Now, the one that's right behind it, the light purple, that's already in.
Already in
the-
town.
Everything that's purple
Because-
on this map is the town. If you see, the light purple is T4 neighborhood
I
center.
just wanted to confirm that because I went out there today and I saw a plethora of huge specimens back in there, and I just wanted
Oh, behind this?
behind here.
Much further back, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I went back there today and.
The very
looked at
end of
them all.
Oakview Drive is there are historic
I mean, I took
sizes
pictures
of
of them.
live
I
oaks
was so
back there.
amazed at how huge they were. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
There are
to
no
see.
trees on this site.
This,
There are no trees on either one of the That's the site in the back where our plan was denied by the
correct.
town.
Yeah, the
They
design
wanted to
review
do
board
something,
recently
the
heard
design
that.
review board denied that plan, and there is some other activity going on in a way to preserve those trees that we're,
That's the old Bostic property, right?
directly behind
Correct.
it.
I
Yeah.
think you
Because
are.
I remember when we annexed that.
Yes.
And I think there's a single-family subdivision. in
The
the works
oldest
on
truck,
that- on
the
that
oldest
rear
oak
parcel
tree in
as
Beaver
well.
County is back.
That's, some people are claiming that. It's,
Yeah,
Nowhere near these two sites.
they're nowhere near these sites we're talking about tonight.
not related.
Okay.
Any other questions on the zoning? I'm happy to see this. It's been about a year and a half we've been talking about these and approaching them, and they finally come forward, and I think that's wonderful. What's the pleasure of council?
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2022-16.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is again an annexation, ordinance 2022-17, an ordinance annexing into the town of Port Royal approximately 21.56 acres of real estate located in Beaufort County, described as Beaufort County Tax District 100, map 31, parcels 34, 35, 36, located at 450 Paris Island Gateway and 65 St. Paul's Church Road.
So these are 3 parcels catty corner to the 2 that you just heard. Separate petitions, so we hear them separately. The front parcel, the largest of the 3, is currently a mobile home park that houses 51 mobile homes. And the rear 2 parcels are heirs property that are currently vacant. As you can see on our zoning map, it's a fairly accurate depiction of where there's wetland on these parcels. And so with the limited developability of the rear 2 parcels due to the wetland locations, the applicants have requested T4 urban center zoning for all 3 parcels, under the understanding that in the future they may consolidate all 3 lots and then look into a multifamily development on the site. There has been discussion of rent cap on any future development there with that developer. It's just a discussion. There's no guarantee of any of that there, but I did want to make you aware of that, just so you have the option to consider it.
Great opportunity for a new housing trust to maybe get involved in this project.
The 2 parcels in the rear that's owned by heirs, did they actually submit a request?
I meant to double check on the signature today. I do believe, and I think the applicant in the room, we do have a signature on the heir property for the annexation petition. Yes.
Okay.
And they are in the property has not transferred yet.
So they've
It
consented.
will, I think probably January was their date.
Very good. And if you're out there, because I went out and looked at these, this is not Taylor Mobile Home, this is the property to the right.
Yes.
Taylor's
You're looking at
home is to
Taylor's,
the
it's
left.
to the right. Correct.
Yeah, Taylor's is to the left. Questions for Noah? Would the applicant like to add anything? Very good.
So the heirs did sign the petition? Okay. Because it wasn't taking place till January, I want to be sure.
Right. Okay, what's the pleasure of council?
I make a motion ordinance 2022-17 be adopted.
Thank you. We have a second. Terry, that was?
Yes, that was me.
Appreciate that. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 1 opposed. The zoning for that property, please.
Sure. I did the thing again where I combined the 2 and already told you about the zoning, but I'll
Okay.
reiterate, it's T4 urban center zoning recommended and requested. And I think that, yeah, I've already gone over the
Okay.
reasons for that, so I won't say.
Any questions about the zoning? What's the pleasure of council?
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2022-18.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 1 against. Thank you, Noah. Next is ordinance 2219, an ordinance regulating digging of holes at the Sands Beach in the town of Port Royal. Who in staff would like to take this one?
I'll take it, what the heck.
I had a feeling it was going to be you.
Obviously, we've had some recent issues with pretty significant holes being dug at Sands Beach. And based upon that, we created an ordinance that was kind of crafted of what we've seen in a couple of different locations. And what this ordinance would do would limit the size of the holes to be dug, as well as the equipment to be used to dig these holes, disallowing full-size shovels and requiring that they be plastic. I think Councilman Owens provided us with a picture recently of an incident that he saw out there, and I certainly think it's worth consideration.
Absolutely.
My question is, so if this ordinance is approved or passed, how will we inform the family, or we gonna have signage out there to let these people know that there's an ordinance that restricts them to how deep these holes and how large these holes and what type of tools? How will they know
I
that?
think a good visual display, we might know somebody that can help us with that and add that to some of the regulations. I could not believe how deep some of these holes, I would have gotten lost past my waist if I had stepped in the holes recently.
I couldn't believe it.
And, yeah, it's just, it's dangerous, it causes erosion.
You know, we would have these occasionally, but for what's going, I don't know
All of
what's
a
going on
sudden,
now,
it's
but it
just-
is happening all the
It's
time.
one thing with children digging a little hole
Right,
and
what-
cover them up, but these that
You could have
Daryl
definitely
sent us,
hidden, you could
whew,
have hidden an adult in.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can. It's,
I was amazed.
oh.
So is this just for just digging, or is it if they fill it back in, that's fine, or is it just
They
going?
can only
For
dig
the
it to a
tools.
certain depth, and they have to use a certain shovel. They can't go out there with a 6-foot-tall metal shovel, dig an 8-foot hole, and then kind of fill it back in.
So they're not doing any compaction.
But I don't-
anything.
exactly.
You get water on it,
That's the-
it turns into a mud hole, almost
A
turns into
sinkhole.
quicksand, you step
What is
on
it?
it, you sink. you-
What is a deep hole?
Yeah,
Anything larger than a foot deep.
12 inches. Now, like anything else, if for some reason there is some archaeological region to dig out there, they come to the town, they get a permit, we do it right, we'll do that. This is
These
just-
holes were at least 4 feet.
I think I've seen
deep.
people stay
Yes.
in this.
Yep. All right, what's the pleasure of council? We've had a discussion.
I make a motion, oh,
Go ahead,
No,
Darrell.
go ahead. I yield
you
to
go ahead, it's yours.
Yeah, I move that we approve ordinance 2022-19.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Next ordinance, 2022-20. I got it all right. An ordinance to repeal and replace the entirety of Chapter 20 trees of the Code of Ordinance for the town of Port Royal. We're doing this as title only, so that we can kind of meet what we had said, which is complete this by the end of the year. So we're going to get first reading today. They have one more meeting scheduled next week to do the final drafts and the final scriber, and then to scribe, and then we'll get it back next month, and we'll complete our goal, which was to update it by the end of the year. So by title only, 20, there's 22-20. What's the pleasure,
I
council?
move that we approve ordinance 2022-20 title only.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay.
Sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Final first reading ordinance, ordinance 2022-21, an ordinance to amend Chapter 4, Building and Building Regulations, Section 4, adopting the code by reference for the Code of Ordinance for the Town of Port Royal, South Carolina, to adopt the International Building Code with South Carolina Building Code modifications. We do this every couple of years. This comes up so that we stay in line with what the national building codes, the South Carolina building codes are in that way. There was no major, I think we were told last week, there was nothing major that changes what's significant, but we have to do this to be in place. So what's the pleasure of council?
Move that we approve ordinance 2022-21.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None, it's unanimous. Next is second readings.
This is an ordinance, this is 2022-12, an ordinance amending Chapter 3.5, Boat and Safety of the Town of Port Royal Code of Ordinances by repealing and replacing to require permit for mooring, prohibit mooring within a certain distance of public boat landings, bridges, private docks, and marinas, prohibit derelict or abandoned vessels, and giving the Port Royal Police Department authority to seize and tow vessels in violation. You had some public input last week. We identified kind of a slight distance discrepancy in the ordinance as drafted. It was supposed to be a quarter mile, not a mile, from those things that we're talking about. I think you had some discussion with the individual that was concerned about that, and that was an acceptable distance. And obviously, this is in response, and this is something that started at the state level. basically at Folly Beach, we're starting to see the collection of derelict boats moving from other locations that have started adopting more stringent codes, particularly from the state of Florida. This will give us the ability to address some of those derelict boats that could, and I'll be honest with you, have already started to become an issue.
So we've had our first reading, we've had our public hearing, we're here for a second reading. Any further discussion or questions to staff?
There was some changes made to it.
Went from a mile to
Quarter mile.
Quarter mile.
Is that, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of council?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Next ordinance.
Ordinance 2022-13, the ordinance amending the Town of Port Royal Code of Ordinances to add Chapter 17, Article 3, titled Construction of Utilities and Other Public Works Within Street of Right-of-Way and Easements and Other Matters Relating Thereto. If you recall, we had an issue recently with a cable provider, fiber provider, working within our streets without business license, without permits whatsoever, utilizing an SCDOT encroachment permit for aerials out on Rebo Road. I talked to our attorney, they suggested strengthening this particular section of the ordinance, so this is the way it's drafted. We do have Blakely Williams here with Dominion, who may have some comment or some questions for council that I think she wanted to provide y'all. She asked me if she should do a form. I said, we'll recognize you when the ordinance comes up.
Very good. Blakely, please,
Thank you.
welcome. We always like to see you here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's so good to be with you all today. And thank you, Mr. Mayor and Van, for your recent conversations about our concerns about this ordinance. We at Dominion Energy think that maybe the best way forward for us is to create a separate MOU acknowledging our electric service rights agreement, our franchise agreement, so that we can continue our job of providing safe, reliable, and affordable energy without being burdened by the new ordinance's restrictions.
We look forward to that.
Thank
I think
you.
that's the right way to go.
Thank you. Happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Ready for the storm tomorrow? That's going to be just.
As we acknowledge Hurricane Nicole,
There we go. She
do
had some rain.
expect heavy winds and rain. Know that our crews are prepared and ready. Monitor our Facebook page, our website, dominionenergysc.com, for outages, and please report those so that we can get those restored quickly and safely. Thank you.
Keep them safe. Any other questions from council?
No, sir.
The one other thing is, I know that we're working with that provider and their subcontractors and probably subcontractors that were actually showed up here that day.
Yes.
But there's a lot of debris that they left, asphalt that they cut, they removed. Can we either get them to clean it up or clean it up ourselves and charge them for what was done? It's been too long that the piles of asphalt are sitting at the corners and stuff like that.
Their court case is still pending.
Okay, let's add it to it and let the judge know what we did. It just doesn't look right for us to leave it on Paris Avenue. I'd like to get that
Unless
cleaned
they
up.
went into private property.
So what's the pleasure of council? I make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-13.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we've got some appointments. We have Defense Community Partnership Task Force. Mr. Shelton, can we find anything else for you to do? I'm sorry. No, you're good. We had the interview with you last week. What's the pleasure of council?
I move that we approve Greg Shelton as our representative to serve on the Defense Community Partnership Task Force.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Greg, for being willing to do this one. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
We have Regional Housing Authority, Dixie Lanier. Hi. Again, we had our interview. Thank you for being willing to serve. What's the pleasure of council?
I move that.
Motion to appoint Dixie Lanier to the Regional Housing Trust.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I'll reach out
Thank
to
you.
them tomorrow to confirm our appointment, make sure that they have your information so they can get you in the loop for
Great.
upcoming meetings.
And we'll keep you informed about this one project and see if we can't take that little bit of a statement a little further.
Thank you for willing to serve it.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Dixie.
We have Design Review Board, one appointment, Marcy Roy. Again, interviews have been complete.
I'm standing in for Marcy tonight. She had a conflict and had to be somewhere else.
Very good. Tell Marcy we thank her for being willing to serve. What's the pleasure of council?
We did interview her, so I approve that, I move that we approve Marcy to serve on the Design and Review Board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Important dates.
All right, well.
Got a bunch.
Yeah, Thursday, November 10th through Saturday, the 12th is 2022 Penn Center Heritage Day celebration. Friday, November 11th, Veterans Day, our offices will be closed. Tuesday, November 15th, Redevelopment Commission at 4:30 p.m. Saturday, November 19th, Military Appreciation Day from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Naval Heritage Park. Thursday, November 24th and 25th, we'll be closed in observance of Thanksgiving. Sunday, December 4th, is the City of Beaufort Christmas Parade at 3 p.m. Y'all probably need to discuss that, figure out what y'all
We
would
get a
like
little
to
bit.
do.
We're going to talk to you after the meeting.
Wednesday, December 7th, is the Port Royal Christmas tree lighting at 6 p.m. That obviously at Live Oak Park. And Saturday.
The school kids, are we?
I've already contacted the school and
We're good. Good.
And we've contacted Santa, and he will be there.
Santa will be there?
Yay.
Excellent. Glad he could squeeze it in.
Good.
No, it's always nice.
Saturday, December 10th, the Port Royal Golf Cart Parade at 6 p.m. I know we did a post on it. Where are we starting from?
St. Helena, or not St. Helena, Helena Place.
And the route's been modified this year, I see.
Right.
Yes, the map is on.
Preventing
Facebook
gridlock,
page,
that's
and
why?
I'll make sure that it's on the website as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the past, we've dealt with some historic cars. We use some cars. Now that we own our own golf cart, I don't know that we need the cars.
The cars won't be there.
Okay.
They'll be in the golf cart this year.
We'll be in the golf cart. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other important dates? Any council or anything you want to add?
Greg is raising his hand.
Greg is raising his hand.
Can we put December 17th on the?
Oh, yeah.
please?
Music from the.
Music from the Major, December 17th, YMCA.
YMCA.
We'll get that, we'll get some posts out on that one as well.
All right. Two more.
Okay.
Two more. Two more.
One more addition on December 4th is the Port Royal Christmas Tour Homes.
Fort Royal Christmas Store Homes.
Okay.
December
We want
4th,
the
time
weekend.
starting
1 to 4.
1 to 4. Thank you.
7:30 on the 17th.
7:30 and 17.
Busy month. That's how I keep our calendars up to date. Help us with that. Council comments. I will start on my left.
Was there any more comments from the public? I thought there were two hands raised.
I think they were all saying the same thing.
Together.
Okay.
That was the group.
Okay. Well, just a personal thought, and I know as everyone in the room is, we're just saddened to hear the passing of our former mayor, but also our friend, Sam Murray. He was a selfless leader and a servant to the town and to the people for over 40 years. So a true Southern gentleman, in my opinion. He was very, very kind. But if you knew Mayor Murray, he's very firm also. So as I think and I sit here and I ride around town and I think about his fingerprints and his things on a lot of stuff here, it just brings me comfort knowing that he touched so many lives in so many positive ways, and mine included. So I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to serve with Mayor Murray.
Well said.
Thank you.
Carol, anything more?
I echo the sentiments of Jerry. You know, I've got a personal relationship with him, you know, and he will definitely be missed dearly. So, I just want one more also. Van, what's the status of our cord for our flagpole?
I have hired somebody, and they're going to do the installs.
Okay, thank you.
I echo Jerry. I served 30 years with him. It was an honor to serve with Mayor Murray, and you couldn't have found a better gentleman. And he is truly going to be missed from the town of Port Royal, because he was always my friend, and it was always a big support for me to, you know, if I had a problem about something, I'd always go talk to him, and he would guide us. He wouldn't tell us, but he would guide us and show us some differences, and we certainly did appreciate that. And like Jerry said, you ride around the town and you think, you know what, he did. Joe, one day you're going to be there too, but right now, Mayor Murray deserves to rest in peace, and thank you all for considering.
He gave us all so much good advice. One thing he shared with me one time was, we were in council meeting one night, it must have got pretty spirited, and he came to me afterwards, and I was new on council, he said, "Son, let me tell you something. You can't let them get to you. Don't ever let them get to you like that." I said, "Yes, sir, I won't." So I try my best not to let them get to me.
It's a true statement.
Your head don't turn red.
Kevin, anything more?
Earlier today, I had the privilege to go Paris Island and celebrate the 247th birthday of the Marine Corps. It was a very humbling and inspiring ceremony. They did a whole history of the Marine Corps. It was really cool. So with how important that is to our community, just want to take a minute and say thank you to all our Marines. Thank you, active duty and retired, for all you do. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll close with, I have meetings scheduled with the commander of the Naval Hospital in Paris Island just before the end of this year to do a catch-up on what's happening and a little bit of what's going on next year as well. And with that, I'll open it up to public comment. I do have one form. Ms. Haywood Shirley, come on forward.
Good afternoon.
I too share in your loss with former Mayor Murray, and I've worked with him not only on council but also in the Beaufort County School District. We worked together, and I knew him before he even started working. Well, before I started working, he may have been working here, but I met him in summer school. One summer, I was a student at a college, and he was working on recertification. So I knew him a long time, not very personally, but more personally when on town council. And he was always the glue that kept everything together. So yes, he will be missed, and he was always there for the people of the town and with a lot of the families and their affairs. But tonight, I need to bring a personal concern to council. I can't seem to get it resolved. I've been on Bellevue Circle West for about 15 years, and in the last 3 years, or maybe 2 years, I have not been getting any garbage services. And I'm paying for it. I called Beaufort Jasper. They said they collect. Well, I was trying to get it resolved last month. They said, well, we only collect the money. Okay. So I called Waste Pro. They said the town did not notify them that I should be getting services. I said, but I've been paying $21 for at least a year with no services, and the person that's renting part of the property is now paying for his services through another company, and they're doing a wonderful job on picking up the garbage. And so I called the town, and apparently the answering machine is not working. Well, it came on, and I left a message, and I got no response. So that's why I say apparently it's not working, because no one has responded to my request. I've been paying $21 a month for at least 9 months. And the reason I said 9 months, because prior to this, I wasn't paying for the services because I was told that I had the option of not getting it, so it was taken off of the bill. So maybe a year or so later on this year, it appeared on my bill, and when I called, they said, well, if you get water in the town, you automatically get charged for the garbage. I said, well, do I have an option? No. First of all, I find that that's a very unfair ordinance that I have to get garbage if I get water. Suppose I wasn't even living here, but I'm getting water and don't need the garbage services. But my point is, for 9 months, I've been paying $21 for services and haven't gotten any. So I need somebody to resolve this because apparently I can't resolve it. It's an unresolvable situation that no one has an answer to.
Well, we will get with staff and we will see if we can't dig it a little bit deeper and figure out what's happening here.
Well, they said no one from the town called them and told them that I should, and really,
here
at this
has gotten that
point,
message whatsoever.
Okay.
So we will deal with it.
Yeah, we're gonna get this
This is
thing
an
done.
easy fix.
This is an easy, we can take
As a
care of
matter
it.
But
fact,
at this
the ordinance-
point-
The ordinance on requiring payment has been on the books for probably 25, 30 years when you take water and sewer, that you have to take garbage. Y'all, the council passed that, and I'm not sure what year it was.
but at this point, whatever's on the book, I'm not getting any services.
That was my concern.
We're gonna get that.
We have an ordinance
And I'm
that
paying.
mandates that we all have to pay.
And you got my money.
And then the contractor is saying, we don't provide services there.
This is easily resolved.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Easily
We
resolved.
get it fixed.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is easy.
Very
That was
easy
my
to
only
resolve.
concern.
Well,
Okay.
apparently, for the last year or so, that no one seemed to have been able to resolve it until
Well,
tonight.
You're being told publicly now.
It'll
that
be
it's
re-
gonna
just-
be-
Yeah, I don't see any problem with resolving.
Miss Shirley, we will.
But really, and the person that's paying, I would just prefer him going on with who he has, because they're doing a good job
If it's the same
on,
company.
on collecting the garbage. So we really don't need the Waste Pro services anyway, because I don't find them to be very competent.
All residential properties, it's the best way, the reason that an ordinance
And
like
I'm in a
that.
mixed-use position,
Yeah.
so right now it's a business/rental.
And the reason an ordinance like that is put in place, and I could hear the conversation 20 years ago, is the best way to get the best price is to know how, that everybody is gonna get it. I can foresee why that was done that way. Let us dig into this, let us look, it's an easy fix to get you collections, let's see what we can do of what happened for the last 9 months that you weren't getting collections.
And
But it's an easy fix to get you collections.
And a refund for those months that
We'll
I
see what we
paid
can-
for no
let's take a look at
services.
that.
We can verify what the pickup was.
Right, yep.
Well, they
Very
may
good.
have told you they were picking up now.
Well, they can do it through video.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, Miss
If
Thank
I
you.
don't get any, I'll be back.
I will welcome you back. I'll open it up to anybody who did not fill out a form and has any public comment. Seeing nobody, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We have, you know, acknowledge Alice?
I'm sorry, yes, Alice, thank you.
Hope not.
You have not, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I mean, we have something for you. Thank you for your service and thank you for being willing to do it again.
Go Dogs.
Chief, anything in the back?
Yeah, that's right.
We're all good? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.